There's a lot of misconceptions about grant writing, and rightfully so. The misconception starts in the name. They're not actually writing grants. They're writing a proposal or a business plan that you can submit so that your organization can be awarded a grant. A grant is an award that's given to an organization in the form of goods, services, or cash. Your organization can then use the grant to implement or support the services that you provide to your community with that grant money. Remember this, just because you hire a proposal writer, that doesn't mean you're going to win a grant. I can tell you as someone that's reviewed and helped make decisions to award grants on the federal level that there's several factors involved in awarding a grant. A lot of them have nothing to do with the proposal writer and everything to do with the organization. We'll talk about that later. A good proposal writer is going to be able to analyze your organizational strengths and weaknesses to determine if you have a good chance of being awarded grants. Now, although writing proposals and plans is a valued skill, you can use AI to write your proposals yourself. In this video, I'm going to show you step-by-step how to use AI to write your own proposals. When you hire a proposal writer, they're going to interview you to find out how your program works. They'll need to know the needs of your service area, who you're going to be serving, who you can collaborate with, the everyday operations, your mission, your goals, and your budget, to name a few. If you can answer all of these questions, then you can write the proposal yourself using AI. Let me rephrase that. AI will write the proposal for you. You just have to be able to provide AI with the baseline data. Once you give AI the data and have allowed AI to write your responses, all you have to do is copy and paste the responses into your applications from your template. That's what we're going to be making here today, is a proposal template. Before we get into applications and looking for grants, let's look at your program and put your template together. If you already have a program template, skip to the portion of the video titled Applications. We're going to start with the proposal narrative. The proposal narrative is an explanation of your idea, why it's needed, how it works, who's going to benefit from it, and how much it costs. A complete narrative could be anywhere from 1 to hundreds of pages, just depending on how detailed your program is and how much of an explanation is required in your proposal. When you're done with your narrative, you can ask AI to make a summary of the narrative. The summary gives the reader a clear picture of your program in general terms in about 1 page. Because it's a summary of an entire proposal, it's a good idea to revisit your summary after you completed the entire template to make sure that you capture every element of the proposal in your summary. Here's some general guidelines to follow when you're writing your grant proposal template. Number 1, be concise and to the point. Being long-winded and using big words in a proposal doesn't help you at all. However, your experience as an organization, the resumes of your leadership, and the media clippings is far more impressive than trying to wow the reader with academic terms. Number 2, use their terminology. Even though you don't want to go overboard with your writing and your vocabulary, you will want to use the terminology that the funding agency uses in their RFP to communicate with the reader. As a side note, a RFP, or request for proposal, also called RFA, request for application, that's what you're going to be looking for when you're looking for grant applications. You will want to use the terminology that the funding agency uses in their RFP to communicate with the reader. It helps to make note of keywords used by the grant source. For example, if the funding agency refers to a group of nonprofits working on a project as a collaborative, then you should also refer to groups that work on a project as a collaborative all throughout the proposal. If the funding agency calls a mission statement a purpose statement, then you should also call it a purpose statement all throughout the proposal. Speak their language. So we're going to be direct and concise, and we're going to speak their language. Now we're ready to start creating our template. The first item, what is your program about? Your organization exists to solve a problem in your community. So what is the problem? AI doesn't know the problem. You're going to have to state what the problem is. Let's say that the problem is juvenile delinquency. Through your investigation, you've handed out surveys, you've had community town meetings, you've gathered supported data to back your findings. You now find out that juveniles are delinquent in your community because they're bored. So you decide that you want to create a program that gives them something to do. Your area of expertise is dance. You're proposing to have a dance program in your community to deal with some of the delinquency. I say some of the delinquency because every kid doesn't like to dance. You're proposing to meet the needs of this broad juvenile delinquency issue with dance. Once you've identified the problem, you can now explain why there's a need for your particular program. This part of the program template is called the needs statement. In this statement, you're going to need to accurately depict the problem using the most current statistics and trends. Government census data, health department statistics, court documents, juvenile court records, news reports, Libraries, online databases, even your own community surveys and needs assessments are all good places to find statistics. Regardless of where you find your data, make sure that it comes from a reliable source. Be sure to compare your stats to other places locally and nationally so that the reader can get a broad view of the problem and where it stands in relation to other cities. That way you can make comparisons to other cities, other school districts, anywhere that helps support your case and that there's a need for your program. You can't rely on what you think people need without backing your conclusions with reported facts and data. Proposals that are missing this element are very likely to get rejected. Here's some examples of how we would approach the needs statement using our dance program example for troubled teens. What's the juvenile delinquency rate in our city, county, state, and country? Are there other programs that address juvenile delinquency? How successful are they? Does your community survey show that kids would love to participate in a dance program, but there isn't one? You're putting together a case, a sales piece, backed by hard data to present to the funding agency, and they want their money to be used effectively to solve problems. Even if there are already other programs similar to what you're proposing, maybe they're not meeting the needs of a specific demographic. When comparing your organization to others, be careful not to be condescending about other programs. Instead, find ways to work together with other programs so that you can collaborate together. Meet the needs of as many people as possible. Also, talking bad about other programs isn't favored by other agencies because if they've been in operations for a while, the funding agency might already be providing grants to that organization, so your criticism might not be taken lightly. At any rate, conducting preliminary research to find out if your proposed solution will help solve the problem is key, because if your research doesn't support your solution, you're going to need to come up with another solution. One thing about AI and grant proposal writing is that it can take your ideas and your existing information to create a well-written grant proposal. When it comes to the needs statement, you're going to have to do the research and come up with the data, but once you do that, watch this. Let's say we come up with the following data. Our survey of juveniles said that they got into trouble because they were bored, 22%. Survey of juveniles said that they would love to join a dance program, 34%. Number of dance programs in the city, 0. We put that data in and then we ask AI to use these statistics to explain why our city could benefit from a dance program for juveniles. AI took the data and made a strong argument in favor of your program. Now, considering these statistics, it's evident that there's a clear need for a dance program for juveniles in your city. By addressing boredom, which is cited as a significant factor contributing to delinquent behavior, a dance program can offer a constructive outlet for youth to channel their energy and their creativity. It concludes by saying that the high interest expressed by juveniles in joining a dance program underscores the potential impact such an initiative could have on engaging and empowering the youth. Implementing a dance program would not only provide a positive and structured environment for juveniles, but also contribute to reducing the local juvenile delinquency rate. It then goes on to make several supporting statements for our argument. AI did all of that. It not only cited the stats, but it drew a conclusion that supports the need for your dance program. Now we're going to take this statement and we're going to paste it into our needs assessment section of our template. Another important thing to note is that when you're making your needs statement, give the reader hope that there's a feasible solution. It could be tempting to make the needs assessment sound dismal to make your program sound more appealing, but the reader could think that not even your program could address the problem effectively. So you will want to describe the need and the solution as realistically as possible. Let the reader know that with the amount of money that we're asking for, we can deliver this amount of change, but they have to be able to see hope. The next step is to put our problem and the need into this upside down pyramid. This pyramid represents our specific program operating to meet this broad vision. Vision, mission, goals to meet the mission, objectives to meet each goal, and activities to meet each objective. What's the vision? The vision is a broad, inspiring statement that describes the ideal state of what you're trying to achieve. Idealistically, what would things look like in a perfect world? For example, empowering youth to create a life without juvenile delinquency. This is a very broad statement. It articulates the long-term desired impact or ultimate aspiration of the organization or the project. It serves as an inspirational or future-focused guide that shapes the overall direction and the purpose. That purpose becomes our mission. The mission defines the organization's core purpose, primary objectives, and the approach to achieving the vision. It's a clear, present-focused and action-oriented statement. For example, to reduce juvenile delinquency by engaging youth in structured dance programs that foster discipline, creativity, and community. It provides a direction of how we intend to reach our vision by being more specific. Each level gets more specific as we move down the pyramid. We name some specific elements of our mission that work together to accomplish our mission. These become our goals. Think of each goal as a finish line. We want to foster discipline, creativity, and community. We know that we've reached our goal for each one when each of these events happen. In order to know that, it's not good enough to say, it appears we have fostered discipline, creativity, and community. That's subjective, and we're going based on what we think. We need to make our goals objective by forming objectives for each goal. SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals that provide clear direction and defines the criteria for each goal. We're getting more specific. To enroll 150 youth aged 12 to 18 in our structured dance programs by December 31st, we can measure this objective because we're going to have a list of enrollees. If we get 150 of them that are 12 to 18, then we've met our criteria for this goal. It has to be achievable. The objective should be realistic and attainable given the available resources and the constraints. Do we have the staff to recruit? Do we have enough marketing and promotions? Be realistic in your objectives. The objectives should be relevant and align with the broader goals and the mission of the organization. We shouldn't just have objectives just to be having objectives. How does it relate to the overall program? Of course, we need kids to have a program, so this is a relevant objective. The objective should have a clear deadline or a time frame. Otherwise, people are just going to be messing around and we'll never know when things need to be done. With that said, it's also important to have benchmarks. Benchmarks and SMART objectives are specific points of reference used to measure the progress toward achieving the objectives. They act as the interim targets or the milestones that help track incremental progress and ensure the overall goal is on track. We don't want to wait until the end to find out that our objectives fell short by 50%. We want to have indicators before the deadline that lets us know that we're on or off track. What's working, what needs improvement, what needs to be changed to meet our objectives and ultimately our goal. For example, if our objective is to enroll 150 youth in a dance program by December 31st, our benchmarks could be enroll 50 youth by March 31st, 2024. Enroll 100 youth by August 31st. When we hit our benchmarks, we're on a good path to reach our objectives for that goal. Moving down the pyramid and being more specific, each objective is going to have at least one activity. Activities in the context of nonprofit programs are specific actions or tasks carried out to achieve the objectives. These are the day-to-day operations and the interventions that bring a nonprofit strategy to life. For example, if the objective is to increase the frequency of positive social interactions and cooperative behaviors among participants by 20% over a 3-month period, then our activities or our strategies to obtain this could be group choreography. Divide participants into small groups and have each group create a short dance piece. Encourage them to collaborate and make decisions together. Performance. Each group performs their piece in front of the rest of the class. Discussion. Facilitate a discussion on the importance of working together and how cooperation contributed to their performance. From there, we need to explain each and every piece of the activity, when it will be, where it's going to be at, how it works, how often the activity occurs. Every activity should be explained thoroughly. This phase of the writing process not only serves as a guide and a manual for the program directors, but it also helps you see the day-to-day processes before the program even begins. The activities spell out every person's job and their daily task. It's in this phase you're going to be able to see if there's irrelevant processes, activities that aren't even necessary in achieving your objectives. You're going to want to cut those out. Maybe you need to add or modify some activities. Being thorough in explaining your activities will help you find such processes. I always say to put yourself in the position of a program participant and explain everything that the participant does in the program. If it's an administrative activity, put yourself in the position of the program director or the coordinator or whoever's in that position and explain everything that they're supposed to do. Just remember to keep your explanations within the confines of the word limitations of the grant proposal. For example, if they say explain it in 500 words or less, then as precisely as possible, explain everything that you can about that activity. AI can do that for you in a matter of seconds. The activities are necessary for turning nonprofit objectives into realities. They provide a structured approach to program implementation, ensure accountability, enable progress tracking, and allows for continuous improvement. By carefully planning and executing activities, nonprofits can effectively meet their objectives and ultimately achieve their mission and vision. Just like a doctor assesses your health, a program evaluation assesses the health of a nonprofit program, checking to see if it's working as it should and figuring out ways to make it even better. This is a crucial process because it helps to prove that their efforts are making a real difference, and it shows where improvements might be needed. We have our measurable objectives and our benchmarks to tell us if we're on the right track, but the way that we're able to measure is with measuring tools. The tools that we use to measure our objectives is how we evaluate the program. For example, sign-in sheets. If we want to retain 150 kids in a program, in order to evaluate to see that if we've met this objective, all we have to do is check the sign-in sheet. That's our measuring tool for this particular objective. If we want to increase the knowledge of each participant as it relates to dance history or exercise or dance or anything for that matter, we need to be able to see what they knew before they came into the program and then what they know after they're done with our program. The measuring tool could be the pre-test before you start the program and the post-test after the program. You compare both sets of data and hopefully there's an increase of knowledge of whatever it is that you're teaching them. Everything that you want to evaluate in a program needs a measurable tool because they provide quantifiable feedback. These tools translate ideas into numbers. The tools tell us what works and what doesn't work in a numerical fashion. Sometimes you're measuring objective things like participant knowledge gains by using test scores as a tool. Sometimes you'll measure subjective things like feelings using a rating scale as a tool. For example, on a scale of 1 to 10, do you feel more confident after completing the dance program? Why or why not? An objective without an evaluation tool to measure it is like saying that you're going to walk for a mile without knowing the distance or having a way to track your progress. AI can create your evaluation tools for you. The application process for government grants, state grants, foundation grants, and corporate grants can vary significantly depending on the specific program and the organization or company offering it. However, there are some common steps that are typically involved in the application process for all of them. Federal grants nowadays are fairly centralized. You can go to grants.gov, put in your keyword and location filters, and find grant opportunities for your program. Every state is different, but if you visit just about any state government website, you'll find that they'll provide information on available grants. You'll typically find these under sections such as state agencies related to social services, economic development, education, or health. Specific departments like the Department of Commerce, Department of Health and Human Services, or the Department of Education. Some examples are the California Grants Portal, grants.ca.gov, New York State Grants Gateway, grantsgateway.ny.gov, Texas eGrants, texasonline.state.tex.us. Go to those sites and find opportunities that fit your program, then apply using your template that's made on grantproposalwriter.com. Foundation grants aren't centralized, but there are some databases out there that are up to date and also work by using word and location filters to find matches for your programs. You can pay for foundation database access, or if you have a local library that has access to grants databases, you might want to try there because it's free. You can also look for foundations online using keyword searches to see what organizations will fund your program. Corporations give out a ton of money to their communities. The checks are often smaller and they distribute them out to many organizations. But if you're just looking for a few $1,000s or less, corporations are a good place to check. Just go to their website and look for words like community giving, or grants. Finally, for smaller checks in the hundreds, you could check your local government and even some churches. The main thing is to create for yourself a proposal template for every program that you have. Look for your grant applications on either federal, state, foundation, or corporate websites or databases. And if you have your proposal template on hand, the process could be easy as copying and pasting. Now, once you find a funding source, they typically want you to fill out an official application form provided by the grant provider. Oftentimes, this is a downloadable form that you can fill out and submit via email or the mail. These days, you can even upload it. Be sure to fill out every required field accurately and completely. Once you completed the grant proposal and application form, Submit your application by the specific deadline. Make sure to double check all the information and the attachments to ensure that everything is accurate and in compliance with the grant provider's requirements. Then you follow up and wait for a response. After submitting your application, you might need to wait several weeks or even months to hear back from the grant provider. During this time, you can follow up with the grant provider to see if they have any questions or need to provide additional information. Be patient and prepared to respond promptly if they have requests for further details or clarification. If your application is successful, you'll receive notification of a grant award along with any specific terms and conditions you'll need to adhere to. If your application is rejected, don't be discouraged. Take the opportunity to solicit feedback from the grant provider to understand why your application wasn't successful and use the feedback to improve future grant applications. It's important to note that the application process for government grants, state grants, corporate, and foundation grants may have specific nuances and requirements unique to each type of grant. Therefore, it's crucial to carefully read and follow application guidelines provided by the grant provider to maximize your chances of success.